This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agnew. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Jason Shafton. He is the CEO and founder of Winston Francois. I almost got it out perfectly. Jason, hello, man. How are you?
I'm great. It's okay. It's not the easiest thing to say unless you're French. So you're
It's a
doing great.
mouthful, man. Well, I mean, let's get it out of the way. I know the answer, but why is the company named Winston Francois?
We named it after our dogs. So I own the business with my wife and I run it as founder and CEO. She has a day job and is not a crazy entrepreneur like me. And we have two French bulldogs named Winston and Francois, or Frank as he is colloquially known. And that's how we came up with the name.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it very much. I was just telling the story. My company name is JDAQA, and like everybody, it's just my initials and then QA for quality assurance, but everybody tries to pronounce it, and it's been one of my favorite things, hearing somebody say Jadaqua or like whatever weird variations of the name. So tell me, man, where did you grow up, and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur?
Yes, it did. And I grew up outside of Chicago, and maybe the place wasn't so important, but what my family did. So my dad and actually my folks bought a turntable manufacturer. And, you think DJs and turntables now, but this is like hi-fi, listen to a record in your living room with a really nice stereo. So they owned a hi-fi speaker and turntable company. And prior to that, my dad was an owner of another business in the like home theater furniture category. So this is pre like home theater being a thing, but like this is a company that made really nice furniture for your like TV and your speakers and stuff to put inside of it. So I saw entrepreneurship from a young age, and I think that influenced me in being comfortable betting on myself. And then came out of undergrad and went and worked at Google and saw tech, and that was really cool. And then got into startups. So like combined the entrepreneurship example of my youth growing up in the suburbs of Chicago with working inside the greatest tech company probably ever, maybe Apple being the other example, and got to then go, start tech startups. And now I help them all the time, which is a lot of fun.
Love that. Do you think that your dad's selling high end and like luxury stuff as his product influence you at all?
Yeah, for sure. One, I can't listen to just a pair of, AirPods is like how I listen to music. That's just not going to work. I need like good speakers and good source material, not the crappy MP3s. And, I think my work now, I'm selling myself and people consulting services to companies to help them. And that's a high ticket item. It's not something everybody can afford, and it's a luxury, but I think it helped me understand that there's a market for everything, and that, there's a buyer out there for the thing you're trying to sell. And that's how we figure out, product market fit.
All right. Well, what was the first business you tried to start?
Well, the absolute first business, I think I was maybe 10, 11 or 12. And I bought these little styrofoam airplanes that, you'd assemble them and then they would fly, and they were really lightweight and kind of like the advanced version of a paper airplane. And then I started like painting them. So I bought like acrylic paints and painted the airplanes. And then I set up a little like lemonade style stand out front of my house. And I was selling these cool painted styrofoam airplanes to other kids. And their parents would come and they'd give me some money, and they'd buy an airplane or two. Sometimes the paint would cause the airplane not to have the right aerodynamics, and there would be returns. And I have to handle that.
Customer service.
I had to learn that.
Early age.
Yeah.
There's no chat bot for that. There's no help bot for people to.
No, this is pre-chatbots, man. This is OG. This is basically pre-internet. I'm old.
I love it. It's so funny how common that story is from like
somebody else was selling painted styrofoam airplanes. I want to meet them.
No, but like
something
just
like
the concept of like something like you just like I would melt crayons on the bus, and like they would like if you melt them enough together, you can make them in cool kind of shapes, and they're like this very like malleable material after they've been heated for a while.
Play-Doh.
And I was just and they're like, yeah, it was like Play-Doh, but it was like this really it was weird and it was cool
Yeah.
and like people would buy it. And I knew people that like sold like people in that have sold, candy and like other but the paper airplanes is certainly unique, but all of them, like at a very early age, exhibited some form of like, hey, I'm gonna make a transaction with another person for money for something
Yeah.
that costs less than they're gonna pay me for it, which is like a
Yep.
cool thing to kind of pick up as a kid. What was your first company that you started beyond the pay, or maybe you turned that into your first, company? I'm not sure, but
No, my first company I started in high school. It was originally called JS Recording and then rebranded to Rubber Room Records. I started a record label, a production company, and I was recording, other kids in their bands and my high school choir and musicals and hip hop, rock groups, just whatever I could get my hands on, and whoever wanted to hire a local kid to record their crappy music, frankly. So I did that, and that was really cool experience that led me on a journey to try to find a career in music. And it all came full circle. Actually, I got to launch Google Music and Google Play when I worked at Google. So like it was a wild journey, but 20 plus years ago, I started this record label in high school.
and are you still doing it?
Technically, I still do it. I do occasionally collect a small royalty check from some of the stuff I did, but it is certainly on the back burner. The day to day is the company behind me, Winston Francois. It's the consultancy that helps tech companies with growth and marketing.
So anybody who has been on the internet, especially on LinkedIn, probably in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, has been beaten over the head with companies that help with growth for marketing and sales. First of all, how do you compete in that? How do you like start a business in a very crowded space that's like,
Yeah.
got a lot of money behind it and like there's a lot of people doing it, made you start it and like how did you think you were going to do against just like this sea of growth specialists?
Yeah. So I definitely didn't intend to start it. It kind of happened organically, which I think the best businesses do. I worked in this space as an operator inside of companies for years. First at Google, then I ran marketing at Comedy Central, and then I started my own startup with a couple of co-founders. We raised tons of venture capital, and then I was running another venture and private equity backed startup before making my way into one that everyone's heard of. I led growth and marketing at Headspace, and through all those experiences, I met founders and investors, executives, people that saw how I operated and liked the way I thought about growth and marketing. And so when it came time to kind of start this, which I didn't even really start it, I just started getting asked to advise and consult while I was already, doing other things. So that those requests became so frequent and so interesting to me that I was able to step away from like having a day job and do just this full time as my day job. So what began as a side hustle became my only hustle. And, I think that to your point about there being a lot of people out there that do this or say that they can do it, and it's a very crowded category. That is true. But back to my comment about there's a market for everything. What I've done in my career and what I do, I think, is different in that I am a chief marketing officer, and that I've played that role in many companies at this point, and I provide that service to the companies we work with. I have a team of people like me that are also with that type of background. So we provide fractional kind of think part-time chief marketing officer, head of growth, kind of VP level folks that are super strategic that help companies grow. And they've been in these rooms before. So they've been in a venture backed startup. They've gone through that journey. They worked at big tech companies like Google, Apple, Meta, Amazon, et cetera, or they worked at a little startup and helped scale it from 0 to 1, 1 to 10. So they have that direct experience, which makes them a very credible person when they get in a room with a founder and CEO is like, hey, I need help with my growth and my marketing. So we
Yeah.
show up and we do that work, and we're really value add at the strategy level. And then we also can help execute much more like a traditional agency. So I think it makes us a little bit different.
Love it. Well, normally I would ask, who's your first customer, Winston Francois, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, who was your first customer at the painted airplane stand? Do you remember who you no, no
I don't
chance?
remember the kid, there's no
Alright,
chance.
I
My
thought
memory's not
alright,
that good.
thought you were gonna be like, "It was Jimmy whatever from down the
I can
street,"
make it
and
up. If you want me to, we could go back and I'll do it again. I'll say, "Oh,
yeah,
yeah, it was Jimmy."
yo, yeah, yeah, it was Jimmy, it's from down the
Yeah,
street.
Jimmy down the street.
But who was your first paid person? How'd you make that leap from, like, just make giving advice to, like, actually
Yeah.
turning this into a real thing?
So before I even started it, I got introduced to folks and I was advising them just for equity. But the first customer that paid me money to be their kind of growth partner was a company started out in Southern California, where I'm based now, called Modern Animal. And they are like what you would hope veterinary care would be. So it is a tech first incredible platform that allows pet parents to take better care of their animals, because there's a mobile app and you can talk to the care team 24/7 using your phone, and you can book your appointments and put your credit card in there and does everything. So think like, a One Medical or some of these other companies where you have a membership and you just show up and it's like Apple Store in terms of how beautiful it's designed, and everything just feels really nice. And unlike a lot of vet clinics, it doesn't smell like pee, and like it's just really clean and well designed and made in a thoughtful way and with like a tech enabled aspect to it. So that's Modern Animal. They were our first customer. I didn't know what I was doing. I came in and helped them as their VP of marketing in an interim capacity and helped them hire their first head of growth. And it was an awesome journey. They now have dozens of clinics all over the country. They've launched beyond California. They're in Texas. They're in Washington State, and they're going to expand all over the country. They've raised, I think, over $100 million in venture capital, and it's an awesome success story. And I still work with them to this day. We've worked with them 3 times now. This is the third incantation of our instantiation of our engagement together, and I continue to advise them and support them. And I'm just a huge fan. And I take my dogs, Winston and Frank, to Modern Animal.
Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that beautiful circle back. Um, how did you get that connection? How did you make that relationship happen?
So the introduction came from somebody I worked with at Headspace, and they knew the founder and CEO of Modern Animal, Steven, and they introduced us.
And did your coworker at Headspace know that you were kind of looking to make this a business? Did they introduce you as a
They
somebody
just
who
said,
could
"This
give
is a
advice?
smart guy that's good at growth and marketing. You should talk to him, and maybe he can help."
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So it was kind of an informal
Yeah,
kickoff.
yeah,
Love that.
basically.
Love it. So some of the best or all the best sales calls and sales are just not pushy. They're not
Yeah,
hard. They're like it's a good vibe on both sides and there's
exactly.
value being exchanged. If you had to start it over again tomorrow, everything you've learned, same business, what would be step 1?
That is a great question. First of all, I don't think I could. I think life is just the way it is because things happen that are beyond your control, and it's a combination of luck and timing. But if I had to start a business like this tomorrow, I think I would be even more focused on who my ideal customer is and who they aren't. I think in the early days, I said yes to things. We said no to a handful of folks, but it was a lot of just like fumbling around in the dark and figuring out who is the right company to work with and at what size and scale and what do they need. And I think starting tomorrow, I would take a much more surgical approach to, this is the only type of company that I work with at this stage, at this revenue level, this much funds raised in this category. And this is the decision maker. And like anything outside of that, I'm just going to say no to and stay really focused. Whether or not that would result in the same outcome, I don't know. That might be a worse way to do it. But where I am now, I think I'm getting that clarity after 5 years of doing this. And I certainly would have loved to have had it a little bit earlier on.
It takes a while sometimes, man. I feel the
Yeah.
same way. I feel like it never ends. I always feel like if you can tell anybody like exactly who you are and who your customer is at any given time, I feel like you're kind of bullshitting a little bit because like it's always moving.
Yeah.
There's always an opportunity over here that you're like, maybe that is kind of more of you're always that's the fun part to me. That's what
Yeah.
makes it all exciting is the constant kind of weaving in and out and figuring out what works. So that's a great story. How do you manage and kind of promote your personal brand versus the company brand? Like, do you treat it any differently? Are you just the face of it and you've kind of come to be okay with that? Like, what's your take on personal brand versus company brand?
Yeah, I'm definitely the brand right now, and I would love the company to have its own brand. So I try to lend my brand to the company, but at some point it would be great if the brand of the company was bigger than my personal brand. I think at the moment I have a lot more followers on LinkedIn than the company does, but it would be really cool if that flipped. My brand on kind of social media at the moment is very much like a look into my life. I share just more personal elements, and then the company is much more focused on, the things we're doing and the services we offer and what we do. So try to keep it light. And I think as a marketer, I know people follow people, not brands typically, and they're interested in human stories. So I try to be just authentically me and tell my story. And I'm not yet like building in public, but I've tried to talk that way. And I think it would be cool to share more about, how we've built this and how we got here. Because I think people are genuinely interested, which is why you have a show like this where, how did you get your first customer and how do you grow? And I think we've got a lot of good stories because not only are we doing that as a business, but we help all the companies we work with figure that out.
Are you a Twitter guy? Do you spend time promoting content there, or are you LinkedIn? Like, what's your channel right now?
My LinkedIn's my channel. Yeah, I was on Twitter and X, and yeah, I've gotten less engaged there of late.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. That's not was not a,
Yeah, let's not
trick.
go there.
It's like not a trick question by any means.
LinkedIn is my platform of choice. Yeah, and if you search
Yeah,
my
it's
name,
I
you'll
and the
find.
reason I just asked because, like, Twitter, for whatever it is now or whatever, like, it has been the place you can be a little more personal and, like, you
Yeah,
do a little more of the pull the curtain back and,
yeah,
LinkedIn was a little more buttoned up, and it's feels like it's shifting, a little
yeah.
bit, but that's why I asked.
Everybody's like open kimono everywhere now. It seems it's like just being very raw. I think Instagram is the place where people like to still kind of show the varnished version of their life, right?
But yeah, you're not gonna yeah, I love my favorite is to put, like, embarrassing pictures of my kids on my Instagram. That's one of my favorite things to do. They
How old are
don't
your
like
kids, and when will they see this and be upset with
Oh,
you?
they've seen it and they're not happy. I have 6 kids. They're of all crazy ages, but my 8-year-old daughter does not like me putting pictures of her on Instagram, so
Wow. Okay.
yeah, happens fast, man, happens fast. What about
I
you?
got
How many
I got
kids?
younger
You got
ones. Yeah, I
you have
got a
I know you
7-month-old and a 4.5-year-old.
okay, there you go. Yeah, that's a good split. I
I'm
like
I'm
that.
I'm not at 6 though. That's you're playing life on expert mode.
I don't know what I'm doing. That's probably the most honest thing you'll hear today. Well, if people wanna get in touch with you actually, I have one more question before that. I
Yeah,
always
please.
end with this question. Non-business related, just, Jason as Jason. If you could do anything on earth and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
Well, this is gonna be cheesy because of the conversation we just had, but, like, if I could do anything on earth, all I would do is not work and spend all my time with my 2 daughters and just, like, be present for every single school drop-off, pickup, soccer practice, dance recital, just hang out with them all the time because 'cause they're so
That's a
cool
great
to
answer.
watch grow
That's
up.
a great answer. It's not even a cheesy answer. It's a great answer. I don't know if I've ever heard that answer.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
and I've
not
heard
life isn't about
200
like,
answers.
once you know this probably because you have a bunch of kids, like, once you have kids, it just changes your perspective on literally everything. When I was in my 20s and working at Google, I was like, "I'm gonna change the world. I'm gonna build a company that changes the world," and now I'm like, "I'm gonna change my kids' world." Like, all I care
Right.
about is just
Yeah.
making great life for them.
Well, people always say to me, like, "Oh, it's" "What was the like, how did it get crazy from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 or
Yeah.
5 to 6?" I'm like, "From 0 to 1."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the craziest you have to become, like, it's not about you anymore. Nobody cares
Yep.
about you. It's about your kids and what they're
Yep.
and, like, trying to just pour everything into them. So,
100%.
yeah, I appreciate that. Sound like a good dad, man. So if people wanna learn more about Winston Francois, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. I've got a handy link where you don't have to worry about how to spell Francois. So if you go
Mm,
to wf.team/pod, that's wf.team/pod. That'll take you to our website and you can check out what we do. I'm on social media as Jason Shafton. If you just search my name, you can connect with me. My DMs are open. I'm always interested in hearing about people's growth challenges and finding ways I can help them. And yeah, on that website, if you have a company and need some help with growth, you just book a time. We're happy to talk.
beautiful. I feel like we could talk for a long time. Maybe we'll have you on again. Jason, you are fantastic, brother. Have a good rest of your week and a good holiday season, and we'll catch up with you soon, all right?
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jason. See you, man.